huge property portfolio, which is worth to the value of what?
A couple of hundred.
Couple of hundred.
Yeah, million. I was desperate and I was determined. Started cleaning windows.
You built the largest independent nursery business in the country.
In Europe.
In Europe. So at what point did you diversify into property and why?
Being absolutely broke. And I swore to myself that day that I would never ever go begging to anyone ever again.
Hi and welcome to the Millionaire Mastermind show. It's Joseph Valente here. I am your host and we are joined by a very, very special guest, Mr. Neville Wright. Thanks for coming, Neville.
Pleasure to be here.
How are you doing, my man?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Great to see you as always. Neville is an absolute superstar. You are a superstar.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've always looked up to Neville. He's very, very inspiring. He's achieved great things. He's mentored me and my business partner Chris over many years, and I always look forward to seeing you and catching up with you. So thank you very much for giving your time to us today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Neville has an incredible career and lots of experience to share. And on the Millionaire Mastermind, the whole concept was created around sharing the secrets of creating wealth. For most people, they don't know how to get rich, and this isn't stuff that you can learn in school. So I use the Millionaire Mastermind as a vehicle to be able to bring incredible guests on like Neville to come and share their experiences on how they did it, because I'm a big believer that success leaves clues. So would you agree with me, Neville, that success leaves clues?
It does, yes. Yeah, and you can learn a lot from other people.
And do you believe that there is a blueprint to creating wealth? Can you copy what somebody else has done and almost guarantee the same success?
Well, you can copy what everybody else has done, which I've done. You know, I've copied people, and not necessarily will you be successful, but it's in your mind if you want to be.
Yeah.
You can't just copy somebody and think, well, I'll be successful. There is other ingredients that you have to have. You have to have focus and determination and a willpower and a want and a need and things like that to make what you're copying, make that a success.
Yeah. And I know you've been a big kind of student of the personal development game for many, many years. Have you ever followed a wealth blueprint? I know you followed a lot of personal development stuff, but is there anybody that kind of showed you the way to make money?
No, because I was born in 1950, grew up in the 50s and 60s, and there wasn't people around. There wasn't people like you around. There wasn't, for a start, who would share anything, and so it was very hard to do it. So I had to do it all myself, really. Yeah. And my family, none of them was in business, so there was nobody there I could emulate, and get ideas from.
So if you could just give us a snapshot, Neville, of a point in time. I know you're going to share your story on the Discovery Day that we've got coming up on the 15th of November in Peterborough. But could you give us a snapshot of kind of where you started out in business? What was your first business venture? Right,
okay. So the snapshot is I was on the assistance, the dole, the welfare system, and there's no benefits to the benefit system, although people think there are. And the government want people to think they are, but there isn't anything for you. There isn't. So in desperation and hunger and want and I was aggravated with the situation I was in. Because
which was what? Being poor, being broke?
Being poor, yeah, being absolutely broke, not having enough money to go to the supermarket and have what you wanted. And I'm talking about basic stuff. You know, you couldn't have butter if you had a loaf of bread. You couldn't have a loaf of bread if you if you had your tin of beans and things like that. So it was like a desperate situation. And I was married and I had a 3-year-old daughter at the time. And up to that age, I thought the world owed me a living. I thought the world wasn't fair, and everybody was who was better off than me didn't deserve it, and all that kind of crap that you go through. But one day I burnt my bridges because I had an altercation in the dole office, wanted another £2 a week. And they said no. They actually said, you can have it if you have another baby. And I said, I can't afford to feed the one that I've already got. And you're telling me to have another one and I need £2 a week. Anyway, I was so angry. I told them where they could put their dole money. And I shot myself in the foot because I didn't get any dole money that week.
Yeah.
So the next day, what could I do? I didn't have any skills. I didn't think I had any skills. I had no money, and I went out and I borrowed my father's ladder, spent 37 pence on a piece of scrim, which is a metre square cloth, and started cleaning windows. I was desperate and I was determined.
So what I love from the story is you've come from very, very humble beginnings. And so when we understand what you've been able to achieve in one lifetime, it's incredible. So it's doable for everybody if they're willing to, do the work and hopefully follow the process. So can we fast forward from that moment, now that everybody knows where you started? What age were you when you made your first million?
32.
32.
That was 6 years later.
And £1 million in 1982.
82.
1982.
Yeah, that's 8 years later.
Was probably about 10 million now, if not more.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And how did you go from, broke, poor, mindset that the world owes you a favour to be able to making £1 million? What was that? What did that look like? How did you do it?
I swore to myself that day, I'd burn my bridges, and I swore to myself that day that I would never ever go cap in hand begging to anyone ever again. And so that drove me. Can you imagine if the window cleaning didn't work, or if I got down and I give it in, it would be, I would go through that dole office door and the lad on the other side of the counter would say, I knew you'd be in, you failure.
Yeah.
And that's what drove me. That's what drove me to work 24/7. That's what drove me to work in the snow and the rain and everything, what you have to do in those days to succeed, to put food on the table. So it was like, you said before, I never started with wealth.
Yeah.
And that's one of the secrets that I feel I succeeded because I never had anything. So I never had anything. So I wasn't used to anything. I wasn't used to a lifestyle. My father did say that you're going down below what your station, below what we've got. And I said, no, Dad, you've got that. I haven't. I haven't got anything. So therefore, with nothing, it meant that I hadn't got expectations of holidays and cars and a great lifestyle. I hadn't got any of those expectations. All I'd got was, I knew I'd got a piece of scrim and really I needed a paintbrush because if I painted somebody's window instead of washed it, I would get a lot more money. And so therefore all my money, that pennies, and that was what would buy extra tools to do better jobs, to do better paying jobs, and that was on a daily basis. That would go from windows to gutters to roofs to mending fences to cleaning out drains, and it gradually went. And shall I say gradually, rapidly, we was employing 6 people. Yeah, and it was like that was the journey, and it was like invest. Every penny that we'd got was investment. Because remember, I was used to, well, you don't remember, but I was living in a 10-foot caravan. I'd got a child of 3 years old and a wife that hadn't got a job, and it was like that. I was used to that kind of living of having scraps, feeding on scraps, what people would throw out literally. So therefore, everything could go into the business. Yeah. And
so there came a point. What I love about the journey, and obviously I've, I know the story, and I've heard it a number of times, and every time I every time I do, it inspires me, and I can imagine the growth, because You were just always on a mission to level up,
Yeah.
and you were always focused on how can you increase the income. And many of the people that we will be supporting, helping, coaching on the Millionaire Mastermind, they've started to make some money in their business, yeah? And once they've started to make that money, they've got to have two decisions: whether they keep investing that money into the company to multiply that money and make more, or when that time comes that they need to diversify some of those profits into a separate money-making, investment, wealth creation strategy. So at what point did you diversify into property, and why?
Right. Well, we first bought our first house in 1968 when I was 18, and it was £650. That wasn't the asking price. The asking price was 1,075, but I'd only got 650. So that was a great lesson. I offered what I'd got,
Yeah.
not what they was asking for, what I'd got.
Yeah.
And another thing was, I was too scared to go into the estate agent and offer that money, but I had a crazy father-in-law, what was to be a father-in-law, who didn't care.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't affect him if he went into a estate agent and offered a silly price and they rejected him, because he was old enough to understand that it wasn't a rejection of him, it was a rejection of the offer.
Yeah.
And I was at 16, 17, 18, I was feeling it would reject me.
Yeah.
And everybody would lose out. So we bought this house. It was a derelict house, and over 2 years we did it up. Then we bought another one and did the same, and another one and did the same. And by the fourth one, I thought I was a builder, and I thought I was great. And the only thing I was great was knocking things down, taking the wiring out, taking the plumbing out. And what happened was, I'd done all this to this. I was living in the back garden in this 10-foot caravan, and there was a recession came. I got made redundant. And when you hate your job and you wish you was never there, that wish will come true. And I did get, out of 4 people there, I got made redundant. So therefore, I was on the dole. I'd got no money, I'd got no skills to put it back together. And I'd brought this house, I'd bought it for 7,500, and there was a 4,000 mortgage. I'd brought that down to worth 1,500. So I owed twice as much as the building was worth. And in the 4 properties that I'd renovated and earned, my value went up £3,000. All of that was wiped out. So I'd got nothing. So that's where we was. But after starting the business, I started, my enthusiasm came back. And so if I wasn't working on any property maintenance, I would be doing it myself for my own. And then we got to a point of finishing it off. And
so did you make the transition then to stop working on other people's projects and then just start buying and doing your own?
Yes.
Or did you try and have a healthy mix of doing other people's projects and do your own?
3 years I was doing other people's projects.
And then you just stopped it and then just did your own from that point on, did you?
Gradually, what we was doing, we never missed an hour. So if there was an hour we wasn't doing somebody else's work, we was doing our own work. And we started flipping these small terraced houses. And it takes 6 weeks to do one. And I realised that if I was going to succeed in business, I'd got to work on our own property, because I couldn't be running around putting a latch on Mrs. Smith's gate for £2.50 when I was in charge of 6 people whacking these properties out. So we had to go all in, and of course the cash flow went. But I did this over a few weeks, so kept some of the cash flow going, and then in the end I had to stop it. And again, I upset a lot of regular customers because they said, just do our work, just do our work. And I had a van, and it was full of people's keys, because I used to do the work when they wasn't there, because they trusted me, and and that made me feel good. And when they went on holiday, I used to do their decorating and maintenance and things, and I had to give all the keys back, and that was a really bad couple of weeks of my life. That was to to disappoint people. But
Yeah.
I knew if I didn't, I would never succeed in this business.
Yeah, that's a really great lesson. And, you know, you've got to evolve your operating model. And I think many people, you know, we teach a lot of tradespeople, as you know, and one of the things they're always so afraid of when we say, stop doing the repairs and maintenance business and start moving to the direct sales and installation business, they say, but what about all of the customers that we've built up until now? I said, well, there's got to be a point where you're going to have to say goodbye and you've got to go on to bigger and greater things. And so it's a hard transition for everybody to go on.
It is.
But just fast forwarding a little bit further. So you diversified, you had a maintenance company, you diversified into property, but you didn't just stay doing property, you also built a business in prams and kiddie care and children's, you know, cots and all of that. I don't know what to call it, but what is it?
Nursery business.
Nursery business. Industry. Nursery industry. So, you know, you built the largest independent nursery business in the country.
In Europe.
In Europe. In Europe.
So we went from second-hand prams in a terraced house to the biggest shop and the biggest independent company in Europe. And in one shop, we had 125 full-time staff. And that is just crazy. It's mad, it is. But why did we have a shop? And the reason we had a shop is because one day I was working for the council. I was slabbing council swimming pools. This was as we was doing our own business. And I was still there was still fear of not having this income coming in. So I was doing council work. And one of the guys came round who wanted a job doing. And he wanted some samples of wood or wallpaper or whatever. And I took him upstairs into our 3-bedroom semi-detached house and went into the little bedroom and pulled these samples out. And he brought two other guys. So there's 4 guys there on the landing, on this little landing. And I felt so embarrassed. We needed an office. And that's what drove me to get an office. And Marilyn said, well, it's only going to take me 2 or 3 hours to do the bookwork a day. I'll sell something to make a few quid extra. So what did we know? We'd bought a second-hand pram and a second-hand cot and a second-hand high chair for our baby. That was the thing to do. And that went from second-hand within 3 months to all new. And then we sold that business in 1980. She never did the bookwork in that shop. She didn't. She was too busy. And then the next shop we sold in 1984.
So I want to save some of that gold for the day, if that's all right.
That's all right.
And so you ended up building the largest nursery business in Europe. You also have a huge property portfolio, which is worth to the value of what?
A couple of hundred.
Couple of hundred.
Yeah, million.
Couple of hundred, not a couple of 100,000, guys. A couple of 100 million. Neville is a baller, an absolute baller. A couple of 100 million. So you built a massive business, and you also built a massive property portfolio. Now, were those two things growing at the same time? Kind of, because it's like, I think a lot of people get so busy running a small business, thinking about doing a property business on the side or diversifying into the streams of income. What can happen is they lose the eye on the ball of the first business and they jump to the second one because they think that's going to be, you know, the next big thing. So how do you manage both, and how important was it to have both rather than just spending all of your time in one? I mean, Neville sold his big business for 70 million. So we got an amazing exit. But
that was cash, that was.
That was cash,
Not pound notes, but you know, I didn't have to stay.
70 million.
Yeah. And that was the 4th one we sold, actually.
4th one you sold.
The fourth nursery business we sold.
But even if you hadn't have built that, even let's say you hadn't have got the exit, you still had a huge property portfolio. In terms of asset value.
Yeah, we did.
So I suppose just to get kind of clear on my question really is there's many people that are running a business and that business is only going to make them so much money. You're running a successful plumbing company, you'll make a couple of 100,000 a year. It's never going to make you millions in profit. It's not the vehicle to do it. So at what point would you recommend that people decide to start investing to create wealth? And wealth. I'm sorry to jump in
That's
again.
all right,
Wealth
that's all right.
creation takes time, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
it's like, how soon do they need to start for it to compound to get the value?
Well, I realised on the first week of window cleaning that I was never going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about being a millionaire. I just wanted to be wealthy. I just wanted to have a nice lifestyle. I wanted to be secure, because this is what people feel secure. Security is in between your two ears, but security, to me, was having some kind of income and being able to put food on the table. So it's all basic stuff. But I realised if I did 20 houses a day, 5 days a week, add that up, at 30 pence a house, I was never, ever, as long as I lived, going to make any money, real money.
Yeah.
So therefore, there was a ceiling. So I went on to painting and decorating, and there was a ceiling because you've got competitors, and we'll always do it cheap. Well, I was the one who did it cheaper. And then the window companies. There's always a ceiling, and the people who put roofs on. And we was doing a roof seal for a couple of years. We was sealing those roofs. That was a fantastic job. Although I nearly fell off a 3-story roof, and I caught a television aerial, else I would have died.
Blimey.
So those are the things. So there was always a ceiling, and I wanted something, because I think I read a book, The Lazy Man's Way to Riches, which is not a lazy way at all. When you start reading the book, Joe Carbo.
Great hook, that title, though.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's a reverse psychology, really. You got to work fucking hard, But the thing is, I realised very quickly. And on every single business I was looking, what is the ceiling to this? And if there was a ceiling, then you expand. So just going on to how do you do it, it's like 90% focus on what you're doing, bringing that money in. 10% is looking around for opportunities. And the better you are at doing, so whatever job you're doing, do it the best, do it better than anybody else. Really focus on that job. So you are so good at it, they'll put you onto another job. You'll get a better job. You can always go back if you want, but you should be going forward. And this is how we built it. So always push, keeping the core business.
So 90% of the time on your core business, and then 10% looking for additional investments.
And then you make sure I'm dyslexic and I've got ADHD, so I bounce about. And I couldn't read when I left school. Couldn't write my own name. Couldn't spell my own name. And every single day, even though I've got Grammarly, spell check, and that, I still ask Marilyn how to spell these freaking words. And sometimes she gets awkward and says, "I've just bloody told you how to spell minute." Well, I can spell it in like 7 different ways, But the thing is, it's like spell check doesn't always understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So So you've got to employ people. So I was never ever afraid of employing people.
Yeah.
And then it left you free. So you got a phone call from a estate agent, you go out and see there and then. You wasn't tied to the till.
You built an infrastructure to buy back your time, so you could then focus. So I suppose, what would you say? I don't know, put a number on it, maybe 3, 5, 10 people doing the tools, and then you get to go and focus on the bigger picture, don't you?
Yeah, we had 6 people for a start. We built up to 6 people, but even though when we'd got those 6 people, I could always go off for an hour, have a look at a property.
Yeah.
I was free, and this was it. I was still focusing, but I could nip off, look at a property, make a decision, and then go back.
And has property investments always been your preferred stream of income? I know you do other investments. Is it your favourite one?
It has been, but we've had different property investments. So we try and keep ahead of the trends.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be doing rent to rent. I wouldn't be doing a service accommodation and things like that, because there's loads of people in it. But we was the first.
Is that because you're at such a status now, though?
No.
Would you do it if you were starting from scratch? Because obviously those two are really, really popular ones.
Yeah.
But would you do it if you were starting up, or would you just say, even at the level that you're at now, that they're too saturated?
We look at things and say if there's not a million profit in it, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah, I know, but that's because you're a beast. But I'm talking about the guys that are coming into the game.
If I was there from the start, people would say to us, "There's no money in terraced houses. There's no money in buying terraced houses and doing up and flipping them." But so I needed that money, so we would work on 500.
What people said that there wasn't any money in it, but you saw that there was.
Yeah, because because they'd froze the rent since the wartime, and it was just at the rock bottom.
Right.
And so we got, just like in 2011, we started a building business. We built 600 really nice houses from 2011 to 2017 because nobody else was doing it. And it was like you get into situations where people don't see the opportunity. In the 80s, we were buying houses on the corner of roads and then chopping the back garden off, building a house on the free piece of land and selling the house for the same price we bought it at. So we're getting a free building plot. Then everybody started, well, I say everybody, all the local builders started doing that, and we come out of it. In 2014, we did the first office to resi at the behind Marks and Spencer's. We did 31 there, and we did 39 on the end of Lincoln Road near John Lewis. And then the government said we're going to pack this up, and then they backtracked, and anyway, lots of people was getting in, the price was going up, and we come out. And so therefore, when the trend is going one way, we're going the opposite. Yeah.
And how do you stay ahead of the curve? Who's got the eye? Is it you? Is it Marilyn? Is it your connections? Is it the people that you know? Is it?
I suppose it's gut feeling, and if it's saturated, we're doing sheds at the moment and warehousing. So we've got 140 million pounds worth that we're doing, and it's in the pipeline. And hardly anybody else is doing that. When it starts to get saturated, and other people, because loads and loads of people say to me, "Oh, I want to come out of residential and go into this shed building or warehouse building," and when they eventually do, we'll be doing something else. So
makes sense. So again, I think the recurring theme here is that everything you've done or everything you do is always a game of evolution. It's always an upgrade of the operating model. So it's looking for.
I'll just remind. Last week we spent 5 million on an office. Because nobody's buying offices at the moment. Everybody's shit scared of buying offices. So we bought an office. They've got 8 or 9 years left. The leases, massive company, great company. If they come out in 8 or 9 years, then it's ideal to make 100 apartments. Because by then people have stopped doing it. They won't be doing it. So,
nice.
So at the moment nobody's buying offices. So we are. And I say in 9, probably 10 years. Conversions probably won't be done, but we'll be doing them.
Fantastic. Love that. So, okay.
Well, that's a guess that we'll be doing them in 10 years. Hey, I'm bloody 83.
I'm sure you'll still be going strong, Neville. You'll be doing some building work somewhere, or you'll be renovating it.
As long as I'm not doing it in the sky.
So, property's your favourite investment. What other income streams have helped you create wealth over the years, other than building businesses and doing property? Because I think, I've done a year of the Millionaire Mastermind, and one of the aims of the game was to bring people that have done different things in different verticals, to give those individuals that attend the opportunity to experience what's out there. Because I think everybody's always guessing, but how do you do it and what do you do? And everybody's done it in a different way. And so people that are looking to learn about how to create wealth, they might say, I absolutely love what Neville's done in commercial, that's my bag. Or, you know, somebody that's done it in, you know, buy refurbish refinance stuff,
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever it may be. So kind of giving you that broad experience. So what other things could you share, just kind of snapshot highlight, that we talk about more on the Discovery Day, that you've done or that you do, that have made significant impacts to your wealth?
After a year, 1975 that is, we started putting £20 a week into a pension.
Yeah.
I didn't think it'd get anywhere, but then the next year we started putting another £20, and the next year another £20 into different pensions. Anyway, by the 80s or 90s, we'd got 9 pensions with a bit of growth in there. There was anyway, we amalgamated them together because there was an opportunity. So if you amalgamated all those pensions together, and we was making some really, really good profits. I'm talking about £300,000 to £400,000 profits a year in the late 80s. So we was able to go back 6 years and reclaim our tax and put a big chunk in.
Nice.
And then the next year, so we did that in the March, and in the April we did it again for the next year. So we put a big chunk in and we bought a property. Yeah. Because it's a self-invested pension company.
Right.
And we got like all that all the tax back for 6 years. We did. It's taking opportunities, looking around, seeing what there is at the time. So there was an opportunity to build a new building, and also borrow 50%. So all of a sudden, that was the old kiddie care in Warrington, just on the outskirts of Warrington, which, by the way, we, after having it for about 15 years, we then sold it, knocked it down, and used the rubble we did for another project and sold it. I think sold it to Lidl. I think it's a Lidl there.
Yep.
I get confused with those two companies. Anyway, then we go on to the pension, and we're using the pension. I drew my 25% out tax free in 2010 for one of the businesses. That was 728,000. Yeah. And then since then, what I've done, I've been able to put more in. Although there's a cap, you can use your pension, so you can buy a piece of land on and then get planning permission, and then you can sell it to another business, make a profit, and put it into the pension tax free. Nice. Now this is not for me. This is for my children. Yeah. So we're looking at creating that generational wealth for the children. Yeah, fantastic. As long as they work, that's all right, and they do. Yeah, they work the socks off. So incredible. Then they'll be able to cope with it.
So it's all of those things that, you know, you don't get insights to unless you spend your time with people that have got the knowledge, the know-how, and the experience. And I think that's really important. You know, seeking down that advice, that guidance, and that support will help you on this journey. But if you're building a business right now, you've got to also focus not just on that business, but also on these opportunities to create wealth. And on the day, Neville, you're going to share with us some insights into how you built and scaled the largest nursery company in Europe and exited for 70 million. Yeah. And you're also going to talk to us about how you've built a couple of £100 million property portfolio. Yeah. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. Is there anything else you want to share on this podcast before we say wrap up?
No, well, only mindset. Yep. You know, I'm a great believer in mindset, and whatever you believe in, you can achieve. And I know that's true because, you know, I've done it. And you can set your mind to whatever you want, good or bad. It will come true. Whatever you think about, it will, you know, positively, fantastic. It will come true.
Excellent. And everybody that attends, we're going to give you a free copy of Neville's book. It's going to be a signed book. And the title of that book, Neville, is?
The answer is yes. Now, what is the question?
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic.
I better order some in.
How you turn 37p into 100 million. Let's give Neville a big round of applause. Woo, 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 woo. Top man. Thank you, Neville. Much. Cheers, my man. Appreciate it.